Hiya, pals! Welcome to the Mouse Bytes podcast! Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Mouse Bytes, the show all about Disney video games, past and present. This is episode 25, I Just Bit My Tongue, and I'm your host, Clay, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeph. Hello, Jeph.
Hello, Clay. Sorry to hear about your tongue.
Yeah, I kept it going, but it kind of hurt a little bit.
Yeah, oh man, that's the worst.
I'm a professional, so...
At least it wasn't your cheek.
That's true. I think
God.
The cheek is probably a lot more hurting than like your tongue is.
Yeah, and once you do it once, then it's swollen, and then you do it again.
Oh, that's the worst.
Maybe it's just me.
No, that's totally a thing. Anyways. Well, Merry Christmas, Jeph.
Merry Christmas.
As of recording, we're getting very close.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner here. Do you have more work to do before Christmas? Like, are you off?
I'm off. I'm done.
You're done?
Until the
Nice.
26th. Yeah.
Very cool. You got any Christmas plans you want to share with the listeners?
Oh, nothing too crazy. Got grandparents in town. Well, in-law grandparents in town, and gonna probably spend Christmas Eve, Christmas Day over at my in-laws with everybody, and have a merry little Christmas. What
Nice.
about your Christmas plans?
Mine are, I have to work on Christmas Eve because I work for a church, and so that's typical.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yes, and so I think we're working up until about 6 o'clock in the evening. At that point, I will jump into my car with my wife and my dog, and we're going to drive 10 hours to my parents' house.
Holy
So,
moly.
yeah, there's not really a great way to do this part, and so we're like, let's just get it over with, and so we'll probably get to my parents at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and just I don't know, it's gonna suck driving through the night, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Especially the roads you gotta go through.
Yeah, seriously, I
Wow.
gotta drive through Chicago.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to drive through Chicago like in the middle of the night when there's nobody
True.
really on the road.
Yeah.
So, but after that, it'll be good. I'll spend about a week at my parents with some of my family, so it'll be fun.
You could just rent a moving truck and a polka band and sing Christmas carols.
There
in
you
the
go.
back.
Someone could resurrect John Candy, and
That's
I would
right.
be a very happy camper.
Oh,
Speaking
man.
of John Candy, we should probably get onto this week's game. He's actually not in this game
No, or this movie.
or this movie.
But he is in the movie that released 2 years before.
Rescuers?
Yeah.
Nice. That's right. And I don't think there's a Rescuers game.
Oh man, I hope there is. But I don't
There
think
should
there
be.
is.
but
There
I
really
don't think
should be.
there
That would be a fun one.
is. Yeah. Well, real quick before we start, apologies to listeners that it has been a little while since we recorded our last Mouse Bytes episode. We it was just Thanksgiving and everything. Stuff got crazy, and so
'Tis the season.
Yeah, 'tis the season. We snuck one more in here, and then we'll pick up some time in the new year and keep going. But last episode, we took a look at Aladdin for the Sega Genesis. It was the the Virgin Interactive one. But today, we're taking a look at its counterpart, its brother, its argued better or worse than counterpart. Today, we are taking a look at Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. All right, now to start us off, Jeph, if you could please tell the listeners at home what the heck this game is. If you want to, you can just incorporate all of the info as well into that, and just remind people which one this is we're talking about.
Alrighty. This is Aladdin for the Super Nintendo, as Clay mentioned. It was developed by Capcom rather than Virgin Interactive. It came out in November of 1993, so that makes this the 25th anniversary, as we'd mentioned on the previous show with the previous title. Apparently, it also came out for the Game Boy Advance. I am not super familiar with that release, if it was a port or
It was a port.
remake. Okay.
Yeah.
and that's pretty much what I got here.
Yeah, I mean that's that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, there's some key differences in the games. It's not like Lion King where they're made by the same people. Obviously, this was published and created by a completely different company, and so they do some things differently. But then there's also some things that they do very similarly, which is really weird too.
Yeah,
and we'll get into those, but. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I had no idea that they had ported this to the Game Boy Advance. Apparently they did. I don't know. Some people, I saw a quote here. It said that the port of Disney's Aladdin was the most monumentally disappointing of all the ports from SNES to Game Boy Advance.
Yikes.
So I don't know. I haven't played it, so I can't really speak into it. But apparently people weren't super impressed, or at least that one person wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah.
too bad.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but I don't know what they were expecting. The designer of this game, Shinji Mikami, who's well known for the Resident Evil games and stuff, he was one of the designers for this game. And I saw this random comment that he had made at one point. I assume this was years down the line. He said that if he had not made the Super Nintendo game, he would probably buy the Virgin game because it had a sword and better animation.
Yeah.
So, which he's pretty accurate. Plus, when you're a kid, like you want a sword, dude. Like I remember
Definitely.
the Aladdin action figure came with a giant sword. That's like even though he uses a sword for like at the very end of the movie, I think, and that's it. But that's like kind of how he was remembered, and so this game does not have a sword, and so it feels a little weird, maybe not as fun to solve.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving along, we'll hit more on that later. Real quick, history with the game, any nostalgia. I'll jump first. This was the one that I never played. It was the other one that I had lots of fond memories with. Yeah, I literally had never played this game except for maybe like 30 seconds. Scrolling through ROMs or something. Yeah. And so playing for this episode was the first time that I experienced anything outside of like the first level. So unfortunately, no nostalgia. I've always been a fan of the other version and not this one. So my preference obviously might side more on the other end because I have much more nostalgia and history with it. But I'll try to be fair. So what about you, Jeph?
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat where I didn't play it growing up, and I've kind of just played the first level in ROMs a few times before this. And yeah, it's like I'd never been able to get past the first level. So when I used to play around with it, and so it was a little troubling to get through, but I at least played every level this time around. I might have used some passcodes.
Me too.
Oh, good.
All right. Well, moving right along here, we're going to go ahead and jump into some gameplay discussion. Jeph, if you would be so kind, maybe let's just kind of get everything out there. Obviously, this is like a action platformer of sorts, so maybe we could just discuss like the main mechanics and perhaps what makes this one different than the other one, what sets it apart, just so we can make sure everybody's on the same page as far as what this game offers that the other one didn't, as far as like the mechanics go.
Okay, so yeah, I mean it is definitely just a action platformer game where your main objective is to get from the left side of the screen to the right side, similar to the classic Mario platformers, etc. There's a little bit of verticality in a few of the levels, but it's more of like to find bonus things than it is to get the end of the level, as far as I remember.
Right.
Each level, I think, has like 3 action stages and then a little boss fight at the end, or I think so, based on some of the long plays I saw, because I couldn't really get through all of the 3 action stages on all of them. But so you don't collect apples, you have apples? But
yeah, and you can collect apples.
Can
too.
you? Okay, I don't remember seeing any.
They're like hidden in vases and stuff.
Oh, that's probably why. Okay, they're not just floating up in the air. So you do have the apple mechanic, which is the same as the Sega one. No sword, as you mentioned. You can bounce off of a lot of things, and you can bounce off of enemies in kind of an acrobatic way. Swing from poles and stalactites and things like that. But let's see, what other mechanics are there? There's a magic carpet level like the other one.
Yep.
The UI and all that stuff is a little more straightforward as far as showing what your hit points are, rather than being like an ambiguous puff of smoke. It's just hearts.
I did like that.
I appreciate. Yep.
Did you mention the running?
No.
So that's like your 3 buttons. You run, jump, and you can throw apples. And so running is unique to this game. The other game didn't really have any running to it. And so as far as running goes, I didn't really use it a whole lot until the very end. And because honestly, when I did use it, it didn't feel like I was running that much faster. But I guess it does.
It makes a pretty good difference. I started using it a lot.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like at first, I didn't use it at all, but then
Same.
toward the end, I started using it a lot more. And then I found in certain levels, I felt like the level played better when you were playing it kind of like a Donkey Kong Country level, where you're really just kind of holding it down and just going. And obviously not every level will accommodate that, but certain ones did better than others, especially with the fact that you can jump on enemies, which is something I do like about this game. Something that, I guess it's missing in the other one, but you don't have a sword in this one, so you got to kind of make it work. But I don't know, it just feels a little more like Aladdin. So I guess you could argue it's more true to the character, that Aladdin would be more likely to jump on a guard and like knock him over by jumping on him than slicing him with a sword.
Yeah.
And that's nice. And then if you press the jump button off of I don't know what you want to call it, off of, like when you jump on somebody or off of a pole or something, you get like an extra high jump. Yeah. And so it can make it to where you can be running, jump off a bad guy, and press jump again, and like go really high up and get on a platform or something. So I'm sure if you like memorize these levels, you could probably get through them relatively quickly. And so it's nice. I felt like there was some times in the other Aladdin game where like I'm slicing this guy with a sword and I'm just like not making contact with it, and I'm like inching forward, and it really kind of kills the pacing. So I felt like this whole like parkour style thing where you're jumping off things and all that, I felt like that worked really well in this one. And so I liked that. Is different. Maybe not as glamorous at times, but I felt like for the most part it worked relatively well. There's some times where you have to bounce off things and press jump again, and it wouldn't necessarily make contact. Excuse me, like inside Genie's Lamp, I think was one where you have to like bounce off these like playing cards, and it just like, if you didn't do it right, you just immediately fell right down into a pit and died.
Yeah.
So it was a little frustrating at times, but most of the time I felt like it worked fine.
Yeah, in general, I liked the gameplay overall, and I like you said, the parkour element and the momentum of it is more Aladdin feeling, I guess. And it's really just too bad that the animation of this one is not at the same level as the other one, because I think it's like if you could combine the best elements of both of these games, you'd have a really stellar Aladdin game, I think.
Totally.
But that's neither here nor there.
Another thing, this game does have a few bosses. I felt like the bosses were better in this game than the other one.
Okay.
I'm not really sure where this goes in the conversation, but I'll just say it here. Like even the final battle with Jafar just felt it, and I keep bringing up Donkey Kong, but it actually felt like a Donkey Kong Country boss fight, where you have this boss and he has these different attacks he can do, and you just gotta bounce off the minions to get high enough to bounce off the big boss guy. And I don't know,
the pattern is there, and the
right.
It's not unfair. It's not random. Yeah,
totally.
I like that too.
Yeah, I thought that was a good change. Yeah, all right. I think we've hit most of like the overall gameplay of it. I think that
I did just discover watching a long play that there's like a parachute move. I'm not really sure how to do that. I never did it.
Yeah, that's news to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching the Cave of Wonders, and the guy's like, every once in a while he jumps down and uses like some sort of parachute thing. It looks like the sailcloth from Zelda.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I wonder if you have to press like up and
no idea.
Something. Well, the game
sad
doesn't
I
do a
didn't
very
know
good
that.
job. Yeah, they don't.
No,
explain
it
that
doesn't
crap.
teach you anything. I'm sure it was in the instruction booklet, and I'm sure they expected you to read the instruction booklet.
Yeah, right. There was a couple other things that you can collect in this game. One of the things we mentioned was apples. You can collect those that you can obviously throw. There's like bread and chicken that you can eat.
Yeah.
That gives you more health. You can pick up a rug. That's it. It's a rug. You pick it up. Pick up a rug, and Aladdin will be able to use it to glide through the air. But here's the thing. I collected the rug multiple times. It's like hidden in jars.
I thought that was a treasure map.
I did too. I thought it was a map. But then even when I had it, I don't think I ever used it.
No, I definitely didn't.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
There's the jars that I mentioned that hide the things that you're collecting. There's also treasure chests that you can open by jumping on them. There's emeralds in this game. Pick up emeralds along the way. If you collect 100, Aladdin will earn an extra chance to complete the adventure. I don't know. I never really... at first I was like, oh, cool, emeralds. And then finally I was like, I don't want to collect these. And I felt like they were like more of a... I don't know. They're just a pain to collect, so I just ignored them. There's a heart that you can find that gives you an extra heart to your health meter, which is nice. So by the end of the game, you actually have quite a few hearts. Which it was cool that even when you entered a passcode, it gave you the hearts. I appreciated that.
Same.
And then there's a magic lamp that you can get for extra continues. So so those are like the collectibles you can get. Basically, pretty straightforward. Maybe a little less convoluted than the other Aladdin's stuff, because there's like genie heads and there's like lamps you can get and Aladdin heads. It's just like a lot of collectibles and stuff. And so there's also a genie mini game thing that you can get. I only got one on the first level, and I'm not sure what I collected to get that.
I think it's the little scarab, the little gold scarab. So if you release the gold scarab, you have to collect it, and it's not immediately clear that just releasing it isn't collecting it. Like it sort of flies around the screen.
Right.
And so I think the first one, it's pretty easy to just grab it, and then in the later ones, it kind of moves around the screen a lot and then flies away.
Yeah, it's
so if
hard.
you don't collect it, then I think that's what it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the other thing you can also do. All right, moving along is next up is visuals. Jeph, what do you think visually? What are your thoughts on this game?
It's a mixed bag for me, because it doesn't look bad. It has the charm and it has the look of the classic Super Nintendo Capcom games, which is fine until you compare it to the Sega one, and then it just doesn't even like come close to quality, in my opinion. Just the levels and the characters and the sprites and all that stuff just aren't even anywhere near as close to resembling the movie as the other one. The animation is very stiff and very like, I don't know how to say it. It's just not as smooth, and especially like the lava in the background of the Cave of Wonders is like 2 frames of animation, and it looks awful. It's nothing against that team. Like they made some great looking games, and this does remind me a lot of their other games, but it just doesn't quite hold up as well as the Genesis Mega Drive version.
Right. I think I'd agree with most of what you said there. There was little things that I felt like perhaps they did a better job. I really liked Abu and his little sprite. And just the fact that he follows you around, I thought was really cool. Yeah. I don't think he's in the other game. But then they also added little details, like in the marketplace, there's a bunch of like characters just hanging out in the background and stuff. I don't know, just the stuff like that wasn't in the other game. It made everything feel a little more alive. Yeah. So I appreciated that. Most of the other sprites weren't as good. Obviously, we mentioned the animations aren't as good. So there's that. I do think some of the backdrops looked really cool. In one of the later levels of the marketplace, you can see the castle in the background and stuff. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily saying that the other game did or didn't have that, because I can't remember. But I don't know. It was just like a nice touch. Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, we forgot to mention one huge mechanic in this game that the other game is missing, and that's ledge grabbing.
Oh yes, that
Which is
huge.
A very
it makes
integral
it so
part.
much more playable. Yeah,
Yes,
and that's definitely an advantage to this one.
And it works well too. I was
It
actually
does.
impressed. Like sometimes there's like moving platforms that you have to jump on, and
Mhm.
like I don't feel like I ever got like robbed of a
Same.
grab and stuff, and so
Same.
I liked
Yep.
that. The cutscenes visually looked okay. They were all right.
Yeah,
Not terrible.
they were kind of small. They were in,
Small.
like framed windows, and the sprites are already low resolution, so it kind of made it hard. I mean, you could read what was happening, but like, it was not as visually stunning, I guess.
Right. There's a couple other levels that I think that they took some cool liberties with, like the genie level. I thought
Mm-hmm.
felt visually a lot different than the other one, and so I appreciated that.
Much more whimsical than like dark and mysterious, I think.
Right. You could argue maybe less accurate to the movie, but
Yeah, no references to the song. Really.
right.
Like just really random stuff. It is weird that both games you go inside the genie's lamp.
Yeah, I know. I was going to mention that in the story part, but
Sorry,
you're right.
yeah.
No, it's fine. It's just weird that they both did that
Yeah.
when that's not a part of the movie.
And-
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and they've kind of all gone on record and said they weren't really much in contact. I don't know if there was a creative director overseeing both that maybe just kind of urged both of them to do that. I have no idea, but it's just
Right.
odd, super odd.
Yeah. Let's see. Other than that, yeah. I mean, it's not a bad looking Super Nintendo game by any means.
No.
I think Capcom, even with their the Mickey games, like this really obviously it visually looks a lot like the Mickey games,
Mhm.
and I love those games.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't want people to think that this is a bad looking game at all.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But it's just when you compare it to the other one, not
And
as
the-
great.
And the Super Nintendo does have a bigger color palette, so there is more colors on screen, which means you get smoother gradients and smoother, or more colors on screen. So like in that regard, it can look better in certain ways that the Genesis just can't do.
Right.
So there's at least that, which is good.
Yeah, totally. One last thing, I'm watching some footage here. There's one part, it's just very random. Toward the end of the genie level, there's in the background you can see Abu, and he's barely holding on to carpet
Yeah.
in the background, but they're like so far in the background that they're like very, very rough sprites, and it actually looks really cool. Like I think it's kind of funny. I don't know why. It's just like very simple pixels.
Yeah.
But I got at first I was like, when I was playing, I was like, what is that? And then I realized it was a boo in the carpet.
I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
It's
funny.
it is. I thought it was like a really cool little detail. They were like, oh, we'll just
Yeah.
throw that in the background. And so I appreciated the little extra things they threw in at times.
Yeah.
None of it was as they didn't do like the Easter egg stuff like the other
Right.
one did, which I really liked the Easter egg stuff. But
Mhm.
they still did a good attention to detail on this one. So
Totally.
but overall, visually, I think we both would side with the Genesis.
Yeah, overall, definitely.
Yeah. Audio. What are your thoughts?
I don't love the audio of this game. I don't like what you'd call like the sound font or whatever, the instrument choices for the music. And the original compositions are like take it or leave it for me. They're not. Maybe if I'd grown up playing it, I'd kind of love them more. But I would rather just have the music from the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like there is a couple levels that use the music from the movie, but it's
Right.
like in true Capcom fashion, as we've kind of talked about on a lot of the other episodes, is they like to do their own original compositions and
Yeah.
use the original music sparingly. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Even the ones that are like real, quote unquote, real Aladdin music, even those ones are not as well done to me. I don't know if it's just the orchestration or the instrument choice. The Super Nintendo horn is one of my least favorite instruments.
Yes.
It just sounds cheap, and I don't know, they use it a lot in this one, so I'm not a huge fan.
I totally agree.
I had a Bugs Bunny game growing up called Rabbit Rampage, and I maybe mentioned it before, but it has very similar sounding music, so it was interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. The trumpet is just, it's not great.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that they did use some music from the movie, but I don't know. Even that stuff just didn't feel as good. So
Yeah.
definitely prefer the Sega's soundtrack on this one for sure.
Yeah.
So other than that, there a couple of sound effects were cool. I like Aladdin's like damage sound effect because it actually sounds like Aladdin, whereas the Genesis one I think I mentioned on the episode just didn't really sound like him, whereas this one actually did. So I think it's like the only sound effect Aladdin makes in the whole game. But
I think so.
I did appreciate that. I thought that was better. Other than that, not really any other like monumental sound effect that stood out to me or were overly annoying. So unfortunately, that was really the only like audio clip I felt like we really got. But what are you gonna do?
Yep, exactly.
Moving along, we next are on to gameplay and difficulty. We'll just say difficulty.
Yeah.
Jeph, what are your thoughts on the difficulty? I mean, I found this to be pretty difficult. A challenging game.
It is. The biggest challenge, honestly, is that in the earlier levels you only have a few hit points, and like those archers, specifically, like in the village or whatever, like they're really hard because they will shoot their arrow at like 3 or 4 different heights, which makes it a little hard to predict. They're gonna try and hit you. And so I struggled the most when I was like jumping between platforms towards one of those guys, and they would just hit me midair, and I'd either fall down, have to do it again, and then I would just die, and that was where I found myself dying the most. It's funny because later, if you do have more hearts, in which using the level pass codes you do, it's a lot easier because you can take more hits, which is weird, but I don't feel that the levels are super hard at the end, like the temple and that, like that part.
Right.
And like it was a little more manageable. It's still hard and maybe a little more complex as far as the jumps and the timings, but you have a lot more leeway when you've got 10 hearts rather than 4.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean it's hard, and like I said, I couldn't even really beat the first level. I got to Act 3 this time, like after learning the first 2 and running through them, and then just I just ran out of time before I wanted to move on and see the rest of the game. So yeah, it's pretty tough. It's I don't think it's unfairly tough. I don't know. And like you said, the boss battles aren't bad or unfair. So.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts. One thing, I'm watching a playthrough where the guy's using the sailcloth, and I feel like, especially the level I was just watching, which was one of the genie levels, it's like near impossible without using that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like, geez, like, and so I feel like that changes the game a lot because you can slow your descent and you can just really control yourself, like. And there's just a lot of collectibles that I feel like aren't attainable unless you're using that. And so it really changes the game up. And so I feel like I didn't properly give it a good review because I don't feel like I was playing it properly. But what are you going to do, I guess?
Yeah, that's on the game for not teaching.
Yeah, they should have. They definitely should have. Other than that, I agree. The archers, like the enemy placement with like the archers and some of the other guys, are a little frustrating, especially on the front end. The carpet level is just stupid hard.
I couldn't even get past like 2 seconds into that.
Well, because you like can't figure out what you can and can't run
what's
into
background
at
and
first.
It
was confusing, and so I went through like 3 or 4 lives just trying to figure out what I could and couldn't, and like what it wanted me to do. Since I keep bringing up Donkey Kong, I might as well, like in games like Tropical Freeze and stuff where you have these crazy flying levels, it's usually very clear where they want you to go. Whereas this one was like there's a wave behind you, but then there was also like tunnels ahead of you, rocks falling, and it was just like I never knew what the game wanted me to do, and it was very frustrating. And so that one I didn't even like spend too much time on because I was like, this is, and it was instant kill. They didn't even let you use your hearts, which I thought was just really poor planning. But but then in certain levels, like when you're in the cave and there's lava, if you fall in the lava, you don't instant kill.
Yeah, you can do one bounce off it.
Yeah, whereas in the other Aladdin game, I think if you fell in the lava, you were just done.
Yeah.
And so there was stuff like that where I felt like they made it a little bit more fair, but then all of a sudden you get to the carpet ride thing and it's an insta kill, and I was like, well, that kind of contradicted itself a little. I felt like.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So that was a little frustrating.
Yeah.
But I agree. I liked I like how many hearts you can get at the end. I think that allowing your character to continue to get more health, I think is a great thing. I don't think enough games use that mechanic, and so I always appreciated that. So yeah, it's definitely challenging. I think if you played this game enough, though, and you kind of memorized and knew all the mechanics involved, I feel like you could probably play through this. You can play through the whole game at some point. There isn't a difficulty on this one. It's literally just there's only there is no option to change the difficulty, so it's all you get. And I felt like there's enough continues out there too and extra lives that it was relatively fair. And I liked the password mechanic. I don't think the other game had passwords.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And so I can't remember.
It just had they had like the debug level select.
Right. And so I liked that too. In fact, I pulled up a scan of their of the manual or whatever, and it's somebody had scanned it in, and it has they hand wrote in it all the passwords to the different levels and stuff.
Nice.
And so I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. It's just I like that they allowed you to at least kind of jump back in if you got to a certain level or whatever. I thought that helped a little bit. So.
Totally.
All right. Next up is the story. If I'll take this one if you don't mind, and then
please do, because I didn't read the cutscenes.
I did, and it started out so much better than the last game. The last game, I felt like the story mode got so weird so quick and so different from the movie. Whereas this one started out very faithful and then kind of like really diverted toward the end. It basically, once you get to the Cave of Wonders, everything up to that point was really good. It actually felt like the front end of the game progressed through the storyline of the movie much quicker. But anyway, but then all of a sudden you get to Genie's lamp, which is what we kind of talked about earlier. And once again, I don't know why they didn't just somehow phrase it to be friend like me level. Yeah. But somehow it's like Genie decided to convince Aladdin to come check out inside the lamp, and you're like, okay, that's weird.
Danger.
So you do that part. You're like, okay, that's not part of the movie. And then they escape the Cave of Wonders in the cutscene, and then all of a sudden Abu falls off the carpet and lands inside of a pyramid.
Oh, now I understand.
And then that's the next level is Aladdin.
The end of the level.
Right, and then Abu's like stuck in like a mummy
or something. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thing. Yeah. And so that was just like, I don't know why they added the pyramid level there. I guess they just couldn't figure out another level to put there.
It's got it's got to be that. I don't know.
And so they just came up with something kind of generic.
It takes place near Egypt, right? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Pyramids, cool.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I think it moves itself back to the storyline. But there was little things like in the marketplace when you get to the very end of the level, Jasmine is caught by the guy at the market who's gonna cut her hand off or whatever, and you have to fight him. And so there's little stuff like that where you run into Jasmine. So there's like little like in-level cutscene kind of things that you don't get in the other game, which I guess is nice. So I don't know. That was kind of my thoughts on it. It started out really faithful to the source material, and then just kind of really diverted about midway through. Yeah. And the fact that they both did the inside the Genie's lamp thing is just really weird. But
it's so weird.
I don't really understand why, but for some reason they did that, and so yeah. And then it gets back to Jafar's palace at the very end. So, anyway, real quickly, I'm just gonna list off the levels, and then if we have any thoughts, we can hit on them. But we've already kind of covered a lot of them. Basically, each level has different sections and places in it, and so like the marketplace, I don't know how many it has, but there's like I don't know,
it's three. Yeah.
3 or 4 different parts to it. I don't know what you'd call them, and then it ends with a boss. And so if you die, you don't go back to the very beginning. I think you start at the section you were on, unless you game over. I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. So first part is the marketplace. Second part is Cave of Wonders. Level 3, you escape the Cave of Wonders. Level 4 is inside Genie's lamp. Level 5 is the pyramid, and level 6 is Jafar's palace. And then I guess you could argue that the final level is the final battle, but really it's there's like a 2-part battle with Jafar. Did you fight the snake Jafar by chance?
No.
Okay.
I got like maybe 2 or 3 hits on, or I think 2 hits on regular Jafar and just couldn't beat it, kept dying, and I was like, okay, I think I understand this battle.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the final battle, so.
You have to hit regular Jafar like 6 times.
Okay.
And so I just kept going at it until I finally beat him. The snake part is actually pretty cool.
I'm watching it right now. It looks pretty cool.
It was probably my favorite part of the game, actually. Because there's just some unique things to it. Like at one point, the snake, you're standing on his snake body, and his snake body dips down, and you have to jump up. Otherwise, you get hit by fire below. Yeah. And then he has a couple different attacks he does, and you jump on his head a number of times, and he dies. And
Nice.
I don't know, just a way better final boss than the last game.
Yeah.
Just a more clever use of the material, the source material, and I don't know. It was challenging, but it didn't feel impossible. It was like, okay, I can do this. It was mostly just like figuring out what their attacks were, and then like not being stupid when it came time to execute them. And so after a while, I was like, all right, I can do this. I'm just like, I need to play better. And I much prefer that than this is just stupid hard.
Yeah.
And you just like have to get lucky.
Yeah.
So I really like that
Yeah.
a lot. Did you have any highlights from the game? Any levels that you liked in particular, maybe?
Nothing really stood out. I mean, I loved the aesthetic, I guess, of the genie level, especially when you're up in like the cloud part.
Yeah.
It's just whimsical and fun, and reminded me of some of the other Capcom Disney games. Beyond that, the rest of it was fine. I thought the pyramid level, the sand falling, looked a little weird. I didn't realize what it was at first, and I just didn't put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, why is there yellow water falling from the sky? And then I realized it was sand waterfalls or sand falls. Anyway, it was it was weird. But yeah, as far as like standout moments or whatever, Whole New World I didn't play, but I saw on the long play, and I thought that looked really nice.
Yeah,
the fireworks,
I didn't play that either.
Kind of pretty, but yeah, I would have loved to have experienced that one.
Is it an actual level or is it a bonus level?
I'm thinking it's a bonus level because I went down the level select when I was doing the passcodes, and
and there's not an option, and there's no enemies in this level. You're literally
right.
Just
it's just like gems. It must be just a bonus level.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but it is really cool. It's a nice touch.
It looks nice. Yeah.
Oh, it is a bonus. Bonus clear. Yeah. It's
okay.
Right there. Yeah,
Well, darn.
That's why I missed it. So that's cool. There's some unique. I wonder if you just got to spin it on the genie thing, because the one time I spun it, I didn't win anything. So maybe you just have to get a certain thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So there's some
or
cool little like hidden things in there.
Levels. Yeah. I don't know. Did you have a standout favorite moment part? Was it the snake?
Probably the snake.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Unfortunately, other than that, I'm with you. At first, I liked the genie level, and I was like, okay, this is a little different. But eventually, it kind of the level frustrated me itself.
Yeah, it was too hard for me, but I liked the way it looked.
Yeah. So I don't know which genie level I prefer, to be honest, but they were both cool.
To be fair, I struggled a lot with the other one too.
Yeah, totally. They're both pretty challenging. So, yeah, I would say the final boss was my standout moment. So
cool.
All right, final thoughts, Jeph. Let's hear what you're thinking. Obviously, we have to compare the two because we're doing these back to back. So
yeah,
let's hear your thoughts.
All right, so this is a solid Capcom Disney platformer game where the gameplay is pretty good. Visuals are colorful and vibrant, but the animation is lacking. The sprite work is not quite as accurate, I would say. And so it's a mixed bag. It's fun. The music itself is not great. So, like, I mean, I'm just kind of pulling each thing as it comes across my mind. Overall, it's, in my opinion, just not as good as the other one. And just for, all the reasons we mentioned before, the overall total all-encompassing gameplay, the fact there's no sword, even though, yeah, it's more accurate maybe this way, it was fun to have the sword. And then just, like I said, the animations, like climbing the ropes and things like that, it was just so different. So I like it. I wouldn't say it's a bad game. I would say, especially if you like Aladdin, you should play both of them.
Definitely.
I would say start with this one and treat yourself to finish on the better looking one. But other than that, I would give it a solid 7.
Okay.
As a game, it's a little harder. Maybe not harder. They're both hard. It's a little hard, and especially don't like that Cave of Wonders escape flying carpet level.
I feel like there's got to be a better way to do the Cave of Wonder levels without I felt like the other one wasn't as ridiculous as this one, but I don't know. I feel like there's a way to make it fun, but not just stupid challenging. I
feel like if you go back to the source material, the carpet is the one flying and knows where it's going. So make it like an on rails, like more like the minecart levels of Donkey Kong Country, where it's guiding itself for the most part, and maybe you have to do some jumps or ducks or something. But maybe you just need to collect stuff, or maybe you just need to, I don't know, make it a little different.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be a way to make it a little more enjoyable and not just stupid stressful the entire time.
Yeah.
Just struggling to stay alive. All right, for me, I agree. I think there's little things that this game does better, but overall I still think that the Genesis version made by Virgin Interactive is a better game. Musically, I think it's better.
Yes.
The other one is. I think visually, most of the things are better on the other version. But like I said, there's little things that we mentioned throughout this episode that I thought that they did a better job. But I'm totally with you, Jeph. I think that they're both good games, and I don't own a copy of this one, but I definitely want to pick it up. I think anybody who's a Disney fan or an Aladdin fan should own a copy of both if you collect those kinds of games, because I think that they both bring different unique things, and
totally.
And Capcom just has a level of polish to most of their games, like the Mickey ones that I always talk about, and so I feel like they should be like if we didn't have the Virgin one to compare it against, I think that this would even probably be better in our minds.
Yeah, probably.
Obviously, play this game with the sailcloth. Don't ignore that, like us.
Yeah. Go ahead and learn that and practice that.
Yeah, I feel like that totally adds a completely unique thing to this game that the other one doesn't have. That I don't know. I'm just so bummed that I didn't know about that.
Me too.
I really need to be reading the manuals for these games when we're playing them. But that being said, it was still fun to play it and try it. Never having played it before and stuff, so I enjoyed it. I'd rather have two unique games that both play well on their own than like comparing the Lion Kings, from the SNES to the Genesis, where it's literally the same game and there's like minor differences. And so
I agree. Yep.
I think it's a unique thing, and I know people still argue which one's better with the Aladdins, but I feel like they're different enough that it's just they're both enjoyable in their own ways.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
All right. Well, I know this is going to be a shorter episode, but I feel like we did it justice. I feel like we've covered everything. So, with that, we'll just go ahead and close today's episode. So, thank you so much for joining us this week. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at @mouse_bytes. Also, you can go to thenintendovillage.com if you like going to websites. And from there, you can find links to all our episodes, as well as other great shows, reviews, and other content. Our episodes are also on the Nintendo Village YouTube page. So if you want to watch me struggle my way not having a sailcloth in Aladdin, you can go to our YouTube page and watch us play through stuff. All our other episodes are on there with gameplay as well. Join us next year for our next episode, where we will be taking a look at Magical Mirror starring Mickey Mouse. I am going to be playing that on the old GameCube.
Woo!
Is that what you play it on?
Yeah.
I think that I can't remember if Magical Mirror, if it has. Let's see. It also did it. Nope, it's only a GameCube game. For some reason, I thought it. Yeah, for some reason I thought it was like a multi-platform thing, but it even has the only 4 in the corner. So.
Yeah, Capcom for a couple of years, Capcom was GameCube exclusive. Well, not exclusive, but they made a bunch of GameCube exclusives, like
right.
Resident Evil 4 and Beautiful Joe, and those all were supposed to be GameCube exclusives. They didn't sell well, and then they got ported. But for some reason, Mickey got left behind in that.
Yeah. But I own this game. I don't think I've ever played it, so I'm
played it
looking
once
forward
and I didn't
to
really like it. But we'll see.
Yeah,
we have to look at it through the eyes of a child because it's definitely a children's game.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, look forward to that next year. Everybody, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time. Jeph, thanks so much. It's been a great year of Mouse Bytes. So
yes,
cheers,
sir.
buddy.
Cheers to you. Looking forward to a whole new